Hello everyone and welcome back to the den for another Baron's Den Top 10. And this week we're doing the top 10 teams in Blood Bowl 3. So to clarify, this is not all of the Blood Bowl teams in the tabletop game. I do love the tabletop game. I've played many hours for many years on tabletop. But today we're just looking at the Blood Bowl 3 teams. The little mini meta that is Blood Bowl 3 that has a certain number of teams, 16 to be in total. And we're going to look at which ones I think are the top 10 best teams. What do I mean by best? Well, this does not necessarily mean the widely seen as best. This is just my opinion. My opinion of what the best teams are. And what I've tried to take into account is the ability of the players, the possibility for inducements, the team value aspect, all of that wrapping up, and more in because we're Blood Bowl 3, looking at the Season 4 ladder as well. So looking at the fact that there is a 1,600,000 limit on team value means that will affect where we're ranked teams. It is not a perfect situation because many teams play other teams better than others. Some are a natural counter to each other. I'm just taking an overall look. If someone had to ask me if I had to predict the performance of all these teams and I had to put them in order of who is most likely to win and who is least likely to win, this would be my top 10. So, enough with the chatter. On with the team that I've put in the 10th spot. Okay, at number 10 we have humans. So humans are your quintessential beginner team. They came with the first edition I ever bought back in the mid-90s on the tabletop game, and they've been a beginner-friendly team ever since. People often pick them up and use them in their early games, and the reason for that is because they are the, sorry to coin the much-used phrase, they are the jack of all trades. They are the average team. Their stats are average at 6, movement 6, strength 3, edge 3+, passing 4+, armor 9+. They don't come with any skills. This is just your lineman. They are very basic. And as you cycle through the team, you've got a big guy, and it's one of the easier big guys to use. You've got your blitzer with block and a little bit more movement and strength access. You've got your thrower, who comes with sure hands and pass, which are nice starting skills for a thrower. And plus he can throw on a 2+. And then you've got your catchers at strength 2. But they have their skills of catch and dodge. So they are... Oh, and not forgetting they get a halfling as well now. So even if you want a little bit of stunty fun, throw teammate option or little fowler, you can do that on the human team now. So why are the humans at number 10 and not higher? Because they are the jack of all trades, but then the master of none. And you can often find yourself up against a team that can do one of the many aspects of Blood Bowl better than you. So they sometimes will be able to outbash you, sometimes will be able to outdash you. And it comes up to the coach and the way that the team's developed, but I just feel that humans have a bit of a cap. Not too bad to start with, but as soon as teams start to ratchet up their team value, the human team is going to find it harder to compete. But nevertheless, a great solid team and a wonderful team to start with. I've had many years enjoying playing as a human team. They are us as well. We're humans, so sometimes it's nice to see your team represented in Blood Bowl. This is the closest you're going to get to an NFL team, isn't it? Having humans involved. So, yeah, at number 10, it's the humans. At number 9, we have a very different team in compared to the humans, and that is the Underworld Denizens, or Underworld for short, as players have come to know them over the years. This team is a fascinating team because it is a mixture of goblins and Scaven, but not necessarily getting all of the goodies from both teams. So it doesn't have any of the secret weapons from the goblins, and it doesn't have the all of the positionals from the Scaven team. So yes, it can have a gutter and a blitzer, but it can only have one of each and one thrower. So in a sense, when you look at its component parts, you think, well, goblins aren't great, and you've only got half of the Scaven players. So why is this team any good? Part of the reason that they're so good is because they have access to mutations, which means that you can do some really cool stuff with mutation skills. You can be giving players claws, you can be giving goblins 2 heads to make them really nippy and dodgy. You can be getting extra arms and big hands to help pick up the ball. And because it's all on primary access, you can get these improvements much cheaper than the Scaven can. And of course the goblins don't have access to this skill tree. Not the best of the skill trees, but there's definitely some things there you'd want. Plus, they're just very good at removing opposition. They are your killer team. You might think that's a bit strange, given the fact that primarily they're based on goblins. But when you play Underworld teams, you'll find that there aren't that many goblins being fielded, because they also have a big guy, in the sense you could have the troll, or you can go for the rat ogre. In fact, the rat ogre tends to be more popular, and as we know, rat ogres are vicious. They have their Scaven players, which is the blitzer, and he's already got blocks, so if he can get claws and mighty blow, he could become an absolute lethal player. You've got a thrower for throwing the ball, a gutter runner. Once you put 2 heads on this gutter runner, it'll be better than any Scaven gutter runner. You've got the Scaven lineman again, that obviously get the general skill tree, but they also get mutations, so you can be giving these guys claws or extra arms. And of course you get the immortal snotling, so if you want to stick the boot in or generally cause trouble for your opposition, you can field a few snotlings. So yes, Underworld are known to be a tricky team to play against. They can fold like a deck of cards if you hit them in the right places and you get a bit of early removal, but they can also be a real pain to deal with. It's no surprising that they are still ranked the #1 team when it comes to tournaments. There's a lot of favourable skill packages that work well with the Underworld team, and they can also induce some pretty nasty star players such as Hackflem, Bomber Dribblesnot, Morgan Thorg, I believe. So yes, you can really cook up a nasty little roster with the Underworld denizens, which is why on Blood Bowl 3 I've put them at number 9 and not close to the top, because in the more bash meta I have noticed there's not as many Underworld teams, and when you do come across them you can squish them a bit, but nevertheless still very potent. At number 8 we have Elven Union. Now Elven Union are in most, well not most people, in a lot of people's opinion, the strongest of the elf teams. Bear in mind that high elves aren't available yet on Blood Bowl 3. I still prefer wood elves and dark elves to Elven Union, not foreshadowing what could be coming up in the future in the top 10. And the reason for that is just that I feel that Elven Union have they're not as quick as wood elves, they're not as tough as dark elves, they kind of fall in between. They do have some very good starting skills with sidestep on the blitzer and nerves of steel on the catcher. It means that once you've got a good thrower, you've got a very good throwing game, probably the best throwing game. High elves should have a better throwing game, and this is tabletop now, but because Elven Union catchers are better, you'd probably say that the throwing to catching game is better with the Elven Union at the moment. I'm sure when high elves get released they'll do something to make sure that high elves are the premium throwers in the game, but nevertheless the Elven Union ability to flip the ball from one side to the other, to dodge in and out of things, they're all dodge edge 2+, sorry. Once you get block and dodge on a lot of these players, they can be a real nightmare to deal with, but of course if you do manage to catch them, they're going down, and they're going down hard. Most have armor 8+, with I think it's just the blitzers who have armor 9+. Yeah, but block sidestep is a lovely way to start for these blitzers, and they can be a real handful. So Elven Union in at number 8. And at number 7, it's the Lizardmen. A very popular team over the years, both in tabletop and when they arrived in Blood Bowl 3. Lizardmen, on paper, seem to have it all. The big, strong, tough blockers mixed in with the extremely quick and nippy runners that have dodge. Quite simply, on stats alone and skills, the best stunty player in the game. So why is it they're not higher on my list when you've got this perfect marriage between blocker and runner? You can mark the Sauruses to make them hard to manoeuvre, because unfortunately they come out at Ag 5+, which means you're not dodging with them. You're going to have to remove players before you want to move away to blitz or to tackle a ball carrier. And then with the skinks, they are going to get picked on, they're going to get rooted out, because they are the ball carriers, they're the scorers, they're the threat. If you can eliminate the skinks, the opposition's not going to score against you. And that can make them a little bit flimsy, and it gives your opposition a game plan straight away to deal with them. But nevertheless, it doesn't stop them being very potent, because they start out already pretty good at their 2 jobs. The one thing that you need early doors is to get block on your Saurus, because at the moment they're not reliable blockers. Even if they are getting 2-die blocks, they're not going to be having that block skill to make that 2-die block feel secure. But once they do, once you start getting your Sauruses with block and guard and mighty blow, they are going to cook up really nice and going to do a good job of decimating your opposition, allowing your little boys to run through. Again, once you've got block on one of these, they are an absolute nightmare to deal with. You could go for an agility boost up as well, and that makes them difficult. However, that's just 2 of the players. They have more. They have the Croxigor, which is, again, people would argue it's the best big guy in the game. It's quicker than an ogre. It's just as armoured, and it has the same nega trait, but it also comes with prehensile tail. So it is a very useful player to have. And certainly, where some teams might ignore the big guy, I don't see too many Lizardmen ignoring the Croxigor as a player. And of course, they also have the Chameleon Skink, which I haven't got up here. But the difference with that one is it's got 1 less movement for a slightly better passing skill. Of course, they come with on the ball and shadowing. So again, another little player there who's offers something different to the Skinks, but is an option to be moving the ball around. So all in all, the Lizardmen, very popular team. You see them do quite well in tournaments. So number 7, Lizardmen. It's the Wood Elves in at number 6. So the second of the 3 elf teams that are cropping into this top 10. And the reason I rate Wood Elves slightly higher than Elven Union is that they have a lot of the same issues, but I just feel that the Elves have got better players. I think the linemen are better because they move 1 square more. You are paying for it, but I think you can't put a negative on being able to move 7. Your slowest player is movement 7, which just makes them that bit quicker than the Elven Union. I think the War Dancers are famously one of the best game players in the game, if not the best player in the game. And so naturally they're going to trump your Elven Union Blitzers. They come with block and dodge, they can leap. So they're already a brilliant player without a single level up. And then that means you can then go for some of the more risky level ups, such as going for a characteristic. And if you get a movement 9 War Dancer, that's not a bad thing, but you might get a strength 4 War Dancer or an agility 1+ War Dancer, and then you're into the territory of an absolute filthy player. So yeah, War Dancers, incredible. I think linemen, better than the Elven Union. The Thrower, I think, is one of the more underrated players in the game, because they're passing on a 2+, but they can dodge on a 2+ as well, and they come with pass. No better or worse, really, I don't think, than the Elven Union Thrower. In fact, I think the Elven Union Thrower probably comes with another starting skill. But of course, he is, again, movement 7, which makes him that little bit more manoeuvrable. The other thing that the Wood Elves have that the Elven Union don't is a big guy. And you can see in my top 10 most underrated players that I do feel the Wood Elf Treeman is underrated. He's tough, he can sit on the line, he can absorb hits that otherwise your Wood Elves would be taking. And of course he can dish them out as well with Mighty Blow. He can be quite fearsome on the line. So yeah, all in all, I think the Wood Elves are a fantastic team. Why are they not higher? This is the only reason. And you only have to go through my 10 games of my Wood Elf Season 4 playthrough to see how the attrition can wear you down with Wood Elves. You need to keep them moving, you need to keep dodging away. And I feel like a Wood Elf game plan can just be undermined by consistent rolling of 1s. It won't happen that often, but when it does, it's hard to take. And I think there are other teams out there that can consistently get better results than Wood Elves, and that aren't as heavily reliant on that D6. But nevertheless, Wood Elves still one of my favourite teams and one of the best teams in Blood Bowl 3, the 6th best team. Okay, we're into the top 5 now, and in at number 5, it's the Shambling Undead. I love the Shambling Undead. They come with a nice variety of players, all of which can be pretty useful straight off the bat. When each one of those players gets just one skill level up, it makes such a difference, and they just become a brilliant team then. I played them a lot in Season 3 and did pretty well. I was almost into the Master League with them. And when I play against them, I often find them quite a struggle to play against. This transports onto the tabletop as well. We often see them doing well. They are a tier 1 team, so let's see why they are so good. So first of all, you've got Strength 5 mummies with Mighty Blow that, guess what, have no nega trait. So straight away, brilliant player. You have Wights, which are one slower human blitzers, but they come with regeneration, so that's not bad for a start either. You have the Ghouls, movement 7 dodgers. Okay, they are only armor 8+, and they're not as agile as things like gutter runners and elves, but stick block on this guy, and he does have general access. It's going to make him a bit of a nightmare to play against, and then you can add further skills on there, such as block and sidestep, to sidestep your way around. You get 4 of them as well, so you can even build one as a Dirty Player Sneaky Git, and they're both primary skills. So you're laughing all the way. Zombies. Oh, I love zombies. They are one of the worst players in the game, but because they're one of the worst, and they're armor 9+, you can just send these meat shields into your opposition's more dangerous players, and just feed them to those players, stop those players hurting your more important ones. And I just love a zombie. I absolutely love them. I always jump for joy when you get some star player points on a zombie. Not because that's particularly any use, but just because it means that zombie has achieved something. You also get a skeleton, which is virtually the same as a zombie, just as useless. Often people don't like them because they're 1 less armor, so they're more fragile, but they do come with 1 more movement and thick skull. So I tend to run one skeleton, just to have 1 more player with a bit of manoeuvrability, because if you lose your ghouls, and your wights, you might even need somebody to carry the ball for a bit, and you don't want it. You want your zombies doing that. So why number 5 and why not higher? Because you'll have noticed that there's a lack of starting skills outside of a bit of block and dodge. There's no sure hands. Your big guys don't get blocked, so that always feels a bit risky blocking with them in the early days. And they are, like big guys, they do struggle to get blocked because it's a secondary access, so it can take a while to get there. The other problem I just highlighted, that if someone nails your ghouls and your blitzers get bogged down, it means scoring can be a bit of an issue. But nevertheless, number 5 represents this being one of the better teams in the game, and you'd have a lot of fun playing them. Regeneration across the board, apart from on ghouls, means as well that your players are going to hang around just as often as they will get injured or die. So that can be really useful as well. So there you go, number 5, Shambling Undead. Okay, top 4 now. I was a bit torn between this and the team I've put in at number 3 as to which way I was going to put them, but I've gone for Dwarves in at number 4. So, Dwarves, famously not very popular to play against, as people deride them for being boring and for generating boring games. And the reason this is because they are slow, they are sturdy, they are hard to remove, and a lot of players love the aspect of the game where they can remove players. They love causing casualties. So I think just playing Dwarves frustrates people because they're not particularly strong, but they're just hard to get rid of. And because their speed is slow, it does encourage quite a slow, plodding grind of a game plan. But nevertheless, they are still such an effective team. Having linemen, which is what the blockers are, it's their version of a lineman, having linemen that can we block and tackle is brilliant. Yes, they're slow, you can't really do much with the ball with them, but at armor 10+, block, tackle, and with access to Mighty Blow and Guard pretty quickly, these blockers are going to develop into monsters pretty soon. Then you've got some more exciting players like the Troll Slayer, again, who can punch holes through with his Frenzy. He's not far off getting Mighty Blow, so more removal. You've got your Blitzers, who not only are effective at blitzing and blocking, causing damage, they can also run with the ball because they have agility 3+, so they are potential goal scorers as well. You will want to bear in mind that they don't have tackle, something I often forget when I used to block or blitz with a dwarf blitzer. It's the blockers that come with tackle, not the blitzers. You can put tackle on a blitzer, but you might decide that you want to put things like guard and Mighty Blow on them first. And finally, we also have the runner. Now this is the guy who's going to be scoring the majority of your touchdowns because they move the furthest at movement 6, and they've got Ag 3+, and they come with sure hands, so that's your ball carrying piece there. They are a really effective team. They're not an easy team to play with because, you know, their movement means that you have to methodically, slowly move your way down the pitch carefully. They are only all strength 3, so you could end up being overpowered. But once a few of these players get guard, the team, and they can do that very quickly with blockers that get strength access, this team can become pretty frightening and difficult to play against. And particularly if you're an agility team, sometimes seeing dwarfs can be a bittersweet because you think, yes, a team I can run away from, but then no, there's a lot of skills that can counteract mine, and if they catch me, they're going to hurt me. There is one other player to mention, and that would be the Death Roller. Now, the poor old Death Roller doesn't get a lot of love because it has Secret Weapon, and because it's 170,000, so you're putting a big investment into something that's possibly only going to be on for a drive. But it's still a really powerful tool to have in your arsenal because at strength 7 and armor 11+, if you can get a bribe alongside it, or if you're just confident that it can remove a couple of opposition players with its Dirty Player +2 or Mighty Blow, it's worth having it and getting it sent off. If you can go and foul your opposition's most important player off the pitch permanently, then that outlay is worth it. I would only suggest using a Death Roller, though, if you know what you're doing with it. You can get the most out of it. But nevertheless, with or without Death Roller, I see Dwarfs around 4th place. I don't see them being quite as good as the top 3 teams, which are coming up next. And at number 3, it's the Orcs. As of making this video, it is clear Orcs are the most popular team on Blood Bowl 3. They are powerful, they are strong, they are definitely beginner friendly. I always say it does always feel like you're playing Blood Bowl on easy mode, and the reason I say that is not to downplay other people's successes with Orcs. You can still have a great time with Orcs, and really effective good players are going to get the most out of them. But the reason I always think they're very beginner friendly and they're very forgiving is their armour. They're all like the Dwarves, they've got that high armour apart from the thrower, which means that you're not going to lose players as easily as you will on other teams, and they still come with a nice array of starting skills. So there you go, that's the one player who doesn't come with the higher armour level. But you do come with a lot of those same starting skills that I mentioned with the humans. Sure hands, block on your blitzers, but in this case you get potential for 4 strength 4 big blocker players. You still get a big guy and a troll if you want one. You get the little guys like the humans with the goblins instead of halflings, and I'd argue that a goblin is more effective than a halfling on, you know, when it's not on their own teams. So all in all, they just seem like a stronger version of humans because of their ability to withstand hits. They're not as quick as humans, and that's the one thing that humans do have, and they have specialised positionals to help them score their touchdowns, such as the catchers, which the Orcs don't have. But I think in the meta that we're seeing in Blood Bowl 3, I think the Orc team is going to be more effective. You see a lot of Orc teams, and Orc teams tend to do well in the season in all the seasons ladders, and in the tournament scene as well. They're actually tier 2 on the tabletop, which means that you definitely get more forgiving skill packages on the tournament scene as well. So they are they're just very potent, and the players are excellent. The blitzers being movement 6, decent, strength 3, okay, edge 3 plus, okay, but they come with armor 10 plus, and they come with block. They have access to strength and general, and you get 4 of them, which is what makes them really good. The thrower, again, I've put this in my top 10 most underrated player. Somebody can actually pick up the ball. You're probably not going to throw with them an awful lot, but you can run it around with this player. And then you've got a goblin who can be your dirty player and sneak git, or can be your ball carrier, be a throw teammate option. So many things you can do with the orc team. But again, once you get a bit of block, guard, mighty blow cooking on this team, they are frightening to play against and much fun to play with. And just missing out on that top spot, at number 2, it is the Scaven. Now, Scaven are my team. They are my favourite team. I've been playing them since the late 90s. They were my first team I ever painted, and they were the first team I painted when the 2016 rules came back. So they are very close to my heart, and I think Skaven can be devastating. The main reason being this player here, the Gutter Runner. Movement 9, only strength 2, but it's edge 2 plus, so it can nip around on the pitch, and once you get a few more skills on them, they're just an absolute pain to deal with. You can have 4 of them, so you can really stretch the play, but they're not all about the edge side of things either, because they do have some other players as well. They've got a really good thrower that throws on a 2 plus, has passing access, sure hands and pass, so already on the way to being a good thrower. Put a bit of block on him to make him a bit more sturdy, and he can help with that stretch play. You have blitzers that come with block and have strength access, so you can be looking at mighty blow and guard. You have rat ogres, which have become one of the best big guys in the game. A little bit more fragile than some of the others, but absolutely terrifying when you think you can use their animal savagery to guarantee your block or blitz. And then with the frenzy, mighty blow, you start adding a few more skills on, and this player is terrifying. And then even the Skaven linemen are only 50k, easily replaced, and you're going to need to because they've got such low armour. But at movement 7, you can even rely on these guys to score touchdowns, to nip in and provide support. It just fits the Skaven game plan so well. There are going to be times where your team is absolutely crumpled, but I've found that even with a crumpled team, you are still a threat. If that ball pops out, you can switch it round and score within a couple of turns, only by having a few players on the pitch. So for me, Skaven, one of the best teams in the game, and I'm ranking it in number 2, which hurts me a lot that I've had to rank it at number 2. I'd really like to put them at number 1, but I think the next team I'm going to talk about is just a little bit better. So number 1, here we go. Finally there, and it's the Dark Elves. So the Dark Elves, the highest ranked I've put of the elf teams, and in the end I've put them at number 1. So why is that? Well, you get a lot of the benefits you get with a normal elf team. Decent movement, amazing agility, some decent starting skills on a few of your players. But what makes them that little bit better for me is they're just sturdier. Most of your players have got better armour. Your blitzers and your linemen. You've then got witch elves, which are some of the, again, I would rank one of the best players in the game because they start with dodge and jump up. Frenzy is also really useful. Movement 7, edge 2 plus. You stick block on this player, and again, she's an absolute nightmare to deal with. You've got an assassin, which is a completely different kind of player that nobody else has, that you can utilise to stab those tricky blodgers or skillful players that have low armour. It just gives you something different. And again, movement 7. We're just talking about how good the Wood Elf team and the Scaven team are with their movement 7 players. Dark Elves can do it too. Now, a few of their positionals don't have armour 8+, but most of them have armour 9+, which makes them that little bit more sturdy than the other elf teams. And what's more, the Dark Elf block blitzer, where is he? There he is. You can have 4 of them as well. So you're looking at 4 blitzers, 2 witch elves, an assassin. Runner is movement 7, but has a bit of passing access and has primary access to passing. So you've got loads of different options as well, and that's what I love with my Blood Bowl teams. I like having the options. So for me, the Dark Elves, as long as they don't get based too quickly, they can be really effective. They can be scoring touchdowns, they can be dodging out of trouble, they can also be sticking the boot in when they need to. And again, one of your linemen can get the sneaky git dirty player combo pretty easy because they have agility and general access. So all in all, on paper, in the right hands, I think the Dark Elf team is the most effective team in Blood Bowl 3. And there we have it. My top 10 of the Blood Bowl 3 teams. However, there are 6 teams that I didn't mention. So we should just very quickly look at why I didn't put those 6. Okay, so of the 6 teams that I didn't make my top 10, you've got Imperial Nobility, an interesting control team, which definitely has potential. And I haven't played against too many times in the ladder, but when I do tend to play them, I don't tend to do so well. Because their ability of standing firm, fending, can be really useful. But they are flimsier than a human team, and they have lower agility, so they can't even do some of the things that the human team can do as well. And so for that reason, I've kept them out of the top 10. You've got the Black Orcs, which are unfairly dubbed Lizardmen, but worse, because they have that similar combo of big guy, blocker, and stunty. And I think most people would prefer a Croxagore to a Troll, and a Skink to a Goblin Bruiser. Black Orcs, though, definitely underrated. Coming with Grab and Brawler means that they're already doing some things that the Croxagore can't do. Plus, they've got a little bit more agility about them, so if you really have to dodge a Black Orc out, it's not as painful as dodging a Saurus out. But nevertheless, we have seen in the tournament scene, the Black Orcs are one of the lowest ranked teams. They haven't been out as long as some of the others, and I just don't think people have found the best way to play them yet. You will come across a Black Orc team that will be frightening in the ladder, because in the right hands they can be really good. But for me, there are better options out there, and that's why they didn't make my top 10. This one really hurt me because I love the Chaos Renegades, but unfortunately, I think with the 2020 rule set that came out, they were hurt quite badly when the linemen lost their strength access. And also the big guys don't have primary mutation access as well. So when you compare them to Chaos Chosen, their linemen aren't getting the strength and the big guys aren't getting the mutations, which I think was unfair. And I think you see that hit them quite hard because it means that you can't get that guard to make use of the big guys as easily. Like Chaos Chosen, the Beastmen alone can get guard quite easily, but the human linemen can't. And whereas Chosen have reliable strength 4 blockers, unfortunately the humans are only strength 3, and they kind of need the guard more so than the Beastmen and the Chaos Warriors do. So that's for me why they're not there. They have got some very interesting things, having different players like Scaven and Dark Elves on their team, but all in all, I think the negatives outweigh the positives for the poor old Chaos Renegades. Old World Alliance, very interesting team, but you can see in the ladder that they are one of the least picked teams. I think out of 200 and something games I've played in the ladder, I've only played Old World Alliance 4 times. So I think that says a lot. They are hamstrung by having worse blockers, by having loner on certain players, by having animosity on certain players. Again, in good hands, you can be very effective with an Old World Alliance team. I was at a tournament once where an Old World Alliance team won a Sevens tournament on the tabletop, so they can be really effective. However, I think particularly for beginners and casual Blood Bowl players, you're going to struggle to get the best out of this team. Then we've got Nurgle. Nurgle famously are a terrifying team when they're at high TV because they've finally got all the toys that they need. They've got all their positionals. They've got Block Guard, Mighty Blow, Claws all over the place. And they can just be a devastating team. But to get to that point, you have to get through quite a lot of pain. Those early games with Nurgle, you don't have any of the skills that you want. You don't even have a full team. You don't have the Pesticles and the Bloaters, and you might not have the Rot Spawn. So again, it's just they can be very good, but it's just going to take them a while to get there, which is why they don't make my top 10. Not to forget the last one to mention, Chaos Chosen. Now this one is 11th in my opinion, and I couldn't decide whether to put humans or Chaos Chosen in at 11. And in the end, the only reason they didn't get into the top 10 is because of the limit in the Season 4 ladder. I feel that Chaos Chosen are at their best when they're at high TV, and in the Season 4 ladder, you're going to be limited on getting there. That doesn't mean to say that you can't have a very good Chaos Chosen team. You can, and I have a lot of fun with Chaos Chosen. However, they are going to take a lot longer than some of the other teams to cook up to where you want them to be. You know, operating at low TV, they're going to struggle initially, and I think for that reason, that's why I kept them out of the top 10. But that doesn't mean to say they wouldn't be a top 5 or even top 3 team when you're getting into the higher reaches of higher TV. However, to begin with, and just taking an overall picture, for me, they're just missing out on the top 10. And there we have it. That's the top 10 teams, according to me, in Blood Bowl. But obviously, you're all going to have different opinions, and it would be really interesting to see what your top 10 Blood Bowl 3 teams would be. So post in the comments what you think yours would be, or if you disagree with any of my suggestions. It might be that you rate some of the harder hitting teams higher. Maybe you think I've been unfair to some of the teams like Nurgle or Chaos Renegades. Maybe you feel I've been too generous to Dark Elves and Scaven there at the top. Whatever you think, please comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you. Bye.